Ali, stand by. We have some breaking news right now from the Supreme Court on the abortion pill case. Let's go right to NBC's Yamiche Alcindor, who is outside the court. Yamiche, this decision just dropped. I know you have to have a moment to look through it to really get into the details, but what do we know right now?
What we know right now is that the Supreme Court has dismissed this misoprostol case, meaning that this access to this abortion pill, as we have it right now, remains standing. It's a unanimous decision, which, of course, this is in some ways noteworthy because this is a 6-3 majority conservative court. But they're saying that the doctors who brought this lawsuit against the FDA challenging access to the abortion pill, that they lack standing. So this is really punting it, saying that this will continue to have access. So if you're a woman who's wondering whether or not you will have access to this abortion pill, for now, mifepristone continues to be accessible through telehealth, through mail. This is a big, big decision. Of course, the Supreme Court just 2 years ago overturned Roe v. Wade. This is another big decision from the Supreme Court regarding abortion. We should note that the majority of abortions in this country, something like 63%, happen through medication abortion. So this pill means that a number of women are going to still have access to that medication.
Okay, Yamiche, keep looking at this decision, if you will. I want to bring in right now Leah Littman, and she's one of our legal analysts. Leah, my understanding is the Supreme Court is saying this pill can stay on the market as is. As Yamiche just mentioned, 63% of abortions in the U.S. in the last year were through abortion medications or use this type of medication as part of the process. So I guess what does this mean right now when it comes to abortion access in America?
So in the short term, you're right. This decision overrules the lower court's orders that had ordered additional restrictions on mifepristone or had ordered the FDA to remove the medication abortion drug from the market entirely. And so in that sense, it preserves the status quo for medication abortion, ensuring that doctors and patients can access the drug because they concluded that the plaintiffs who brought this case, a group of anti-abortion doctors, did not establish that they were sufficiently likely to be injured because of the availability of medication abortion, which of course is an extremely safe drug. However, it's important to note that what the court's opinion did not do is they did not rule out the possibility of what's known as a Comstock Act challenge in the future. The Comstock Act is an 1873 Victorian-era law that some Republicans, including lower court judges, have suggested actually amounts to a nationwide ban on not just medication abortion, but the abortion procedure as well. And so it's possible that in a future Republican administration, you could see a Republican president and attorney general invoke the Comstock Act to argue that medication abortion cannot be distributed. This case does not rule out that possibility. It merely concludes that the anti-abortion doctors who brought this case were not actually injured and therefore could not take the medication abortion drug off the market themselves.
So what you're saying is they did not rule on the merits. They simply said that the challengers to the FDA decision here and the approval did not have standing, and so therefore others could potentially file suit again, and this could eventually bubble back up. But just to be clear, right now, this means nothing changes when it comes to this abortion pill access. That means all of the things that they were looking at that had been approved in later years following the original approval in 2000, like the ability to get this medication through the mail, like only having to do one doctor visit instead of 3, like being able to access medication up to 10 weeks in gestation versus just 7. All of those things remain. But Leah, we know there is another abortion-related case that the Supreme Court is still looking at. Does this decision have any implications or set any expectations for where they could go in that other case, the one dealing with Idaho's abortion ban?
I don't think the court's ruling on the medication abortion case suggests what the court might do one way or another on the case involving the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act, EMTALA. That's the case where the Biden administration is arguing that that federal law requires states to allow hospitals to perform abortions in cases that may be necessary to save a woman's health, bodily organs, bodily function. Because in this case, the medication abortion case, the court merely said these plaintiffs, the doctors, were not injured and did not, as you said, engage with the merits, that is, whether medication abortion is lawful or could be restricted for some reasons. It just doesn't say whether the court is going to say on the merits or what it might say on the merits in the Idaho case.
I want to bring in Minnie Timaraju. She is the president of Reproductive Freedom for All. Minnie, I'm apologizing for saying your last name wrong, I believe. But thank you so much for joining us. We know the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, the group that had challenged the FDA's approval of mifepristone, had asked for mifepristone to be banned in every state, even in the ones where abortion is protected by state law. And that's what we're seeing, right, is that each individual state right now is able to implement its own laws. Does this decision impact the fight over abortion or reproductive health restrictions at the state level?
Yes. I mean, this case, first of all, I want to start by saying this case should never have been heard. The court made it very clear that the plaintiffs didn't have lacked standing. And there was a larger global issue here about FDA authority, right? The original case was disputing the FDA's authority to approve mifepristone 20 some odd years ago. Medication abortion is safe. It's been legal for over 20 years. It is safer than Tylenol. So those are sort of the fundamentals of the case. But now what we're looking at is how does this affect abortion bans? We always thought this case, by we abortion rights advocates, was a way to implement a backdoor abortion ban, to restrict abortion access in states that have made abortion legal, including states that have constitutional protections in their states for abortion. What this decision does today is it clears the path. It clears the path for states to ramp up access to abortion, medication abortion, like California has done, really opening up medication abortion access to folks from other states. It clears a lot of uncertainty for practitioners and providers in states without abortion bans, but it also makes it easier for folks in states with abortion bans to travel and access abortion care through telemedicine, through brick and mortar pharmacies. It makes sure medication abortion is accessible and legal in all 50 states. It also is a big win for the Biden administration and the FDA. It solidifies their authority, and it shows that they're willing to use all the tools in the toolbox to fight back against these bans.
Minnie, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he thinks abortion should be up to the states. So do you think this decision will impact at all where he lands on this issue if he's elected?
No. I think Donald Trump has been pretty clear over and over again that he is very proud of overturning Roe. He brags about it. He makes it whenever he's in front of an anti-abortion crowd, he's really unequivocal about how proud he is to overturn Roe, and that he thinks actually patients and providers should be punished. He's also really intertwined with the folks behind Project 2025. His advisors are talking about using the Comstock Act, a 1800s law, to circumvent Congress and push a national federal abortion ban. And he's also talked about restricting access to contraception. So I don't think this is going to change much about where Donald Trump stands. I do think that there are going to be Republican efforts to hide their positions on this, but it's pretty hard to do so when you're on the record bragging about the fundamental case that's led to this catastrophe in this country, and that was Dobbs.